Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I've got a question for you. How much pattern paper do you have? And do you use it? I have a lot of pattern paper. Not just in 12 by 12 size for scrapbooking, but in 6 by 6. Take a look, folks. This is just one of many boxes of pattern paper that I have. This is just like my holiday stuff, and I've got some summer in here, seasonal things. This doesn't even cover birthday or baby or wedding or any of that. So again, I'll ask you, are you using your pattern paper? I'm going to show you a card today that uses a stencil set to help you use pattern paper in a really fun way. And it helps you use up not necessarily full sheets, but scraps that you might have laying around, because I think we're all guilty of hanging on to scraps. And, just break out those patterns and play with them. We've got all this paper, and I feel like many of us don't use it. Sometimes we're not sure how to use it, but I think that this method that I've got for you today is going to be a lot of fun and is going to help you kind of tear into your stash and get some of it onto some projects. So I have some Echo Park, a gingerbread Christmas paper here, and we're going to play with this and make a fun card just like this one. This is a Halloween card that I made last year, and I believe that this is all Echo Park paper as well. We're going to make a shaker card because it's been a long time since I've made a shaker card, and that's what we're working on. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different patterns. Actually, it's 8 because I've got that one in the middle there. And it's all from the same paper pad. I like to mix patterns from different companies and brands and themes and all of that, but I think for this video, I want to keep it nice and easy going and relaxed. So we're going to just use this one paper pad to do all of the design on this card. If you'd like, and I've got some ideas, I can show you how to mix patterns from other companies in a later video. But first of all, this just got me. I love this. These gingerbread houses. We're going to start with that. And this paper is all double-sided, so I have 2 patterns that we're going to work with. I love that one. I really like the snowflakes and the candy stripes on this paper. And you don't have to use both sides if you don't want to, but it makes it a little easier. The nice thing about working with a pad, as opposed to just randomly choosing things that are in your stash, is that you know that they're going to coordinate together really well. You know that the colors are going to match. You know that the prints are going to work. It's got a theme. The sizes are going to look good, especially if you're using something scaled down like this one. It's all going to look really nice together. So we have, I'm not going to use this green. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe. And then we need an 8th, right? I like this holly. Let's go with the holly. Okay. So now you might be saying, oh, this looks like it's mathy. I don't want to be measuring. I don't want to be dealing with any of that stuff. Well, guess what, folks? Neither do I. So I have the perfect solution. I have these fabulous stencils from A Colorful Life Designs. It's a 2-piece set, and it's called Layered Bands 1 and Layered Bands 2. And what's great about it is that it's going to make for easy, quick work of putting this card together. And what I really like is that you're going to wind up seeing that there's some overlap here, right? So on this card, you can see that I've got black in between the patterns. I love that because it keeps the patterns separate. It gives your eye a chance to rest so that it's not all jumbled and crazy and one big confusing mess. So having the black on this particular card, I'm not sure if we're going to do black or craft or white yet, but having that space in between each pattern makes it much easier for your eye to see each individual pattern. It makes it easier for your brain to understand what's happening, and it just works out beautifully. So we're going to use this stencil set to cut these patterns out, and we're going to put it all together and make a shaker card. We're going to start with that gingerbread house paper. I'm putting it right where that haunted house paper is on the Halloween card. And what I've done here is I'm going to flip over not just the paper, but the stencil too, because we want to make sure that it is going to wind up being in the correct direction once we've cut it out. And I want to make my pencil marks on the back so that they don't show in case I don't cut it perfectly straight or whatever, you know. Plus, with this particular pattern paper, it's a little easier to see in pencil. So now I'm just going to take my scissor and hand cut it. You can also do this with a paper trimmer of your liking. I will show you that in the next example. But, you know, for this, it's pretty simple to kind of trim that out. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I actually had to wind up fixing it just a touch later on with my scissor again. But now I'm going to go to layered bands 2, and I'm cutting out the next portion. So again, I'm flipping over not just the stencil, but also the paper, so that this way I can make my marks. And again, it's a little trickier to see it on this one because it's black for the most part. But this way, when we flip it over, it's in the right position. So you have to make sure that you do that for all of your pieces. Just makes it a little bit easier in the end. Now I'm using my guillotine paper trimmer to line it up. And like I said, you can use whatever trimmer that you have. I kind of like using my scissor a little bit better, although the edges, you know, just kind of trimming them off with the guillotine is nice. But do it however you like. Use whatever method you want. I kind of go back and forth between paper trimmers and scissors and all of that. So this part's a little tricky, just kind of lining it up at that edge just to make sure that I do trim it off. But I wanted you to see that it can be done with a paper trimmer and it doesn't have to be with a scissor. So now I'm going to choose my next piece, which is back on layered band 1. And you don't have to keep going back and forth if you don't want to. If you want to just use the first stencil and cut out all of your pieces and then go to the second stencil and cut out all of your pieces, that's fine. I just wanted to, for the purpose of this video, for you to see how I was cutting things up. You see that I made a mistake there and I hadn't flipped it over. So now I turned that stencil over. I think the most important thing here is to keep in mind which pattern paper you want where on your card. You might not want 2 stripes together. You might have a favorite that you really want to be the focal piece, which could be at the bottom of the card because, you know, in the center there's the shaker and you'll be losing some of it. So just keep that in mind when you put this together. Okay, so now I have all of the bands cut out and I need to decide if I want to use black cardstock behind these pattern papers or if I want to use this craft. And I think what I'm going to do is use the black for the card base itself and the craft for matting around the bands. On this card I use black for both, but there's a lot of black in this paper already and I want to make sure that it gets broken up again so that your eye has a space to rest. So we're going to use the craft for that. And I saved this green, this was with the candies on the other side, for our shaker window. So now I just need to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4 and we can adhere our strips to that piece. I've got this cut down and I'm going to just shift these off to the side for now so that they can all be lined up. Put this here. And what I like to do is have the stencil kind of help me with my placement. So because this is not going to be a 6 by 6 card, some of the edges are going to get cut off, which is fine. We just need to make sure that we keep everything even when we go from one stencil to the other. So I'm going to just put this here, and I've got my first piece, which are the gingerbread houses. And I don't like that I'm losing this house here. I kind of want that to be there. So I'm going to shift the stencil over so that I make sure that I have that house. And then I want it to be up at the top of the card. That's better. That's good. Okay, so now I'm going to just put some adhesive on the back of this strip. And then just line it up. And yep, there's extra glue on there that I don't need, but that's okay. Just going to line that up. I trimmed this one off. I cut it a little bit crooked the first time, so it's got a little bit more space than it should, but that's okay. So now we're going to skip this row because that's this one, and we're going to go down to the next one. just line it up. And the stencil not only helped us, you know, cut everything out or make lines so that we knew where to cut, but it also helps us with lining everything up when we're putting the card together. It makes it a whole lot easier. And there is some pixie spray on this stencil, which is helping keep everything in place. Put that there, and then I've got the cookies at the bottom. And for this, I'm going to just put it right on here, because otherwise I'm going to make a big mess on my mat, which I already have, but try to keep it to a minimum, you know? Okay. It's going to go like that, and then we're going to just lift this stencil off, like so. Grab the other layer, and we're going to line it up so that the edges of the paper line up with the other edges of the paper on the vertical. And then don't forget, there's going to be the space in between, which is what we want so that we have a place for our eyes to rest. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. Scooch it over. I had not trimmed off the edge because I knew I was going to just cut it off, so that's okay. Now for the black with the snowflakes. This is a really fun way to use up some of that paper. And if you have gel prints that you've made that you're not really sure what to do with, or there's only parts of it that you like and not others, this is a great option for that too. If you have just colored, you know, unpatterned paper, you can make a rainbow or whatever, modified rainbow, however you want to do it. But this is just a fun way to use the stencil in a different way and use up some of the paper that we have in our stash. Okay, so that's there. And I totally glued this to my table, but that's all right. And now we're going to just cut this all off. Some of this is wet, but it'll be fine. You can use your guillotine trimmer if you want to, but this is a little easier at the moment. And now that this is glued down to this panel, it makes it easier for us to do everything else because we're going to make a shaker. If you don't want to make a shaker, you don't have to. You can, you know, slap a sentiment on here and call it a day. Throw it on your card base and you're done, because seriously, that's really cute the way it is. But I like stepping things up, and, you know, I enjoy my shakers. But now it makes it easier for us to do everything else that we need to do. On the Halloween card that I shared at the beginning, I had used the reverse stitch scallop circles from Fawn. I love this die set so much, and we're going to use that again today. And I have the Gingerbread House Sparkle Blend from Doodles Paper Playground. Unfortunately, they are no longer in business, but you might be able to find something similar out there. I might wind up adding some darker green to this because there's a lot of dark green in here and not any of this bright green. I think I want to tone it down a little bit, so I'll grab some green for that too. So I grabbed the Holly Berry Sparkle Blend. Again, you can't get this anymore, but if you do some searching, you can find some sequin mixes out there. So I'm going to add those two together. I really wanted to do the Gingerbread House one because it has the sweet little houses in there. So I'm going to cut the medium-sized circle. Medium? I don't remember. Let's see. Let's see what I used on the other one. I think it's the medium circle. Yep, the medium-sized circle right here. And then we'll start making our shaker panel. I have the window cut out, and now I'm going to use the inside part of it to just cut out a circle bigger than the inside part so that I have the green underneath our window and we don't have to worry about seeing any of the black behind it. So I'm just kind of going around it like this. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to trim off this excess piece here, and then that will go here like that. Okay, let's build a shaker. I have some packaging from an old stamp set, and that's what we're going to use for our acetate. So I'm going to just trim off the top here. It's a great way to use up those packages, many of us like to put our stamps in something other than what they originally come in. And this is a great way to use up that acetate instead of buying it. Okay, so I'm going to just slice this. You want to make sure that it is bigger than your window. And then we're going to adhere it, just like so. I have some tear it tape from Imagine. You can use what you've got, but I like this because it tears really easily and it sticks really well. I also like to use it for embossing things because it's heat resistant. You can emboss right on top of this tape. And, you know, if you want to have stripes in certain embossing colors or whatever, you can do that. And it's a really, like I said, it's a strong tape to work with. So, okay. Pull the release paper off. That's another thing that I like about it, is that the release paper comes off very easily. You want to make sure that you don't have any gaps. In this part, it's not as important, but when we start adhering our foam tape, you want to make sure that there are no gaps because you don't want any of your sequin bits to escape. Okay, so now we have this, and we're going to apply it. If we have too much excess, we can always remove it, but this is okay. I might cut some of this off. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to use some foam tape. This is black foam tape from Therm. It is super sticky. Not thicky. Well, it is thick, actually. It is a very thick foam tape, which I really like because I like to have my sequins move a whole lot. I'm going to just apply it on either side like this. And there's no real right or wrong way to do this, except for the fact that you want to make sure, like I said earlier, that your window is completely sealed with foam tape. Because if it isn't, then your sequins are going to escape. And there are some various ways to do it. I often, when I'm doing a circle, I like to cut my foam tape in half, peel off the release paper, and kind of work it around the circle itself. But I wanted to show you that you don't have to do it that way if you don't want to. You see, I'm getting nice and close to the edge here, but not going over it. But then we have these corners where our sequins can kind of hide, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some triangles with the foam tape and wedge them in here like this so that they can't go down there anymore. They'll get stuck by the foam tape. And this can be a little time consuming, but the end result is just so fun. And I don't know anybody that has not held a shaker card in their hand and not wanted to shake it. So you want everything to move, and you don't want your stuff to disappear. You want it all to be right there for you to kind of play with. And I'm going to just start to pull up a couple of these pieces, just so that I have a little less to do once I have the sequins in there. Because sometimes they bounce and pop and all of that, and then we have havoc. Okay, so I want to make sure that I have at least one big gingerbread house and one little gingerbread house in there. And then I'm going to just dump a bunch of this stuff in here. What's nice about this foam tape also is, since it's so thick, I don't have to worry about any of the fatter pieces of sequins or beads or clay bits not being able to move. They'll all fit because the foam tape is so fat. Now I'm going to go in with some of the darker greens. I think we'll just throw this whole thing in there. There we go. We're going to have a very, very full shaker window, because why not? Okay, so now I've got my green, and it doesn't matter which direction it goes because they're just snowflakes, so we don't have to worry about that either. That was one of the other reasons why I chose that paper for our window. We don't have to have, you know, crooked lines or a design that we accidentally put upside down or anything like that. Making it easy for ourselves. The snowflakes can go in any direction. I'm going to leave this one for now. I'm going to just seal that off like so. And if you're concerned that you haven't pressed it down enough, you could put the release paper back temporarily and kind of just push in that area so that your fingers don't get stuck and then everything gets unsticky and all of that. So now I think we're pretty good. Okay, ready? So happy. That is a very full shaker. I don't usually fill them that much, but man, it looks really fun. Okay, I'm going to clean up this excess sequence, and then we're going to get it onto our card base. I removed the release paper from the bottom strip, and I added a little bit more foam tape to the top just because I didn't want there to be any like folding of it or bounce or anything like that. So now it has a little bit more support. So I've got a black card base, which is going to make it hard for you to see, right? So let me put some paper underneath it. And I want to add a little bit of glue to the pattern paper. Okay. And now we're going to put this on our card front. Or, yeah, on our card front. Stick that down. That is so cute. Okay, now we have a sentiment. This is from Pinkfresh Studios Perfect Sentiments Holiday. If you don't have these, you need to get them. The regular Perfect Sentiments and the Holiday, you have one stamp, and then there's one die. You buy them separately. And you stamp out like a dozen sentiments, and then with the one die, you cut them all out at once. I have used them many times in videos and on other projects that haven't been on my channel, just on my blog, and they're always like just so perfect, and it's so easy. What I do is I'll just set up the stamp in my stamp platform, and I'll grab a bunch of VersaFine Clair and just stamp them in every color and then just die cut them all at once, and then I have a ton of sentiments, which is great. So that's our card for today. I think it's really cute. You use up a lot of pattern paper, get some sequins out of your storage too, and it's just really fun and cute. I hope you learned a couple of things, and if you liked this one, let me know in the comments because I've got some ideas for some more, so I will show them to you at another time if you're interested. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Be well, stay safe, peace out.